Dear students, welcome to this lecture. Today's topic for discussion is Models of Conflict Resolution in South Asia to understand the ways of conflict resolution in South Asian context. The main objectives of today's lecture are to understand the meaning of the concept of conflict resolution, to understand as what constitutes the region of South Asia, to have a look on the nature of conflicts in South Asia with some examples, to have a look on measures adopted in resolving the intra and interstate conflicts in South Asia, and finally to speculate the ways for future conflict resolution methods in South Asia. Dear students, let's understand first the meaning of this term conflict resolution. Conflict resolution as a specific area of study was developed in the 1950s and 1960s as a response to the Cold War phenomena. The word conflict has been broadly defined as the pursuit of incompatible goals by different parties or groups. The comprehensive term conflict resolution is defined as addressing and resolving deep-rooted sources of conflict so that behavior is no longer violent, attitudes are no longer hostile, and the structures of conflict has been changed. In fact, many academics prefer the more specific and commonly used phrase conflict settlement, that is, reaching an agreement between the two groups enabling them to end the armed conflict, or conflict management, which refers to the limitation, mitigation and containment of violent conflict. Nowhere is the need for conflict resolution greater than in South Asia. The region remains mired in conflicts and tensions. Dear students, let's understand first South Asia as a region. Geographically, South Asia can be defined as the sub-region of Indian Ocean region. The base of the mountain wall that extends from the Kirthar range of Baluchistan north to the Khyber Pass, the east along the foothills of the Himalayas until it turns sharply south at the Arakan Yoma and defines the northwestern, northern and eastern boundaries of South Asia. Whereas the Bay of Bengal in the east, the main body of Indian Ocean in the south, and the Arabian Sea in the west complete the demarcation of the South Asian cultural zone. There are 7 states in South Asia like Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bhutan and Maldives. These states are composed of 2/3 of population of Indian Ocean region. Apart from India and Pakistan, which have nearly become self-sufficient in main food products, the state of Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan and Sri Lanka are facing serious problems of food shortage. Moreover, nearly all South Asian states are industrially backward and are facing tremendous problems in their balance of payment due to huge expenditure on the import of oil and other foreign goods. Despite its large reservoir of manpower, the region is regarded as one of the poorest areas of the world. Among the South Asian states, India may be described as the dominant major power, Pakistan as a significant and reasonably cohesive middle power, Bangladesh as weak and dependent middle power, Sri Lanka and Nepal as weak and small powers, and Bhutan as mini-state. The geopolitical setting of South Asia is such that it is creating a growing sense of realization in all regional countries that their destinies are interrelated and interlinked, and they can attain their national goal of progress and development only in a tension-free and peaceful environment. Socio-culturally, South Asia is both homogeneous and heterogeneous region. It's homogeneous in the sense that many regional states were under the colonial subjugation and exploitation, and most of their contemporary problems are part and parcel of foreign rule. Regional states are at present engaged in a struggle for their survival, which requires a greater degree of cooperation among them. They are facing problems which are to some extent common in nature and could provide a uniform platform for regional cooperation. On the other hand, South Asian states are heterogeneous in the sense that there exists a greater diversity of race, culture, political and economic systems. Especially, the South Asian cultures and their populations are highly diverse. Dear students, let's have a look on the nature of conflicts in South Asia now. In the wake of multiple socio-economic and political problems and disputes, South Asia has been converted into a center of local strife and conflict. Conflicts in South Asia, or for that matter in most of other parts of the world, can be broadly put into four categories, namely those imposed and escalated by global political, strategic and developmental dynamics, including the role of great powers. Second, the inherited and strategically induced in interstate engagements. Third, those precipitated and nurtured by the internal political turbulence, socio-cultural fault lines and developmental distortions. And number four, those that are caused and covered by the non-state actors. The first category includes conflicts inflicted by the forces and factors from outside the region. For example, conflict generated in or between South Asian countries as a result of United States post 9/11 intervention in Afghanistan to wage a global war on terrorism. Similarly, the Soviet military intervention in Afghanistan in 1979-80 and the US-led resistance to this intervention during 1980-89, both propelled by the exigencies of the Cold War, will come under the first category. In the second category, India and Pakistan conflicts would assume an important place. In the third category would fall all the insurgencies and ethnic and sectarian conflicts in South Asia, and the fourth would cover the activities of the terrorist groups like the attacks on Mumbai in India in 2008 or the operations of the insurgent and criminal groups across the borders in South Asia. The fourth category of conflicts related to the operations of non-state actors is being drawn attention to in recent years, particularly after the 9/11 Al-Qaeda attacks on the US and the proliferation of terrorist groups that operate across international borders with or without the support from any established state. Dear students, in spite of the existing conflicts, there have been some measures adopted for resolving the conflicts in South Asia. Let's have a look. South Asian conflict resolution has three unusual features. The first is the fact that the Sino-Indian dispute over the common border along the Himalayas is sui generis. It's a major international dispute and one that has led to war once in 1962, brought two countries to the brink of hostilities on others. Over the years, conflict management has been a matter of bilateral negotiations and very seldom one of the third-party mediation. In the wake of 1962 war between India and China, a group from non-aligned nations movement gathered in Colombo under the then Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mrs. Bindrika Naike's leadership in an effort at mediation. It did not meet with much success. The pattern of conflict management on the Sino-Indian conflict will continue to be bilateral rather than multilateral. The Sino-Indian dispute over the Himalayan border has links with others. One that is purely South Asian, is between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. The other has a potential to bring India and Bangladesh into dispute with Burma. Secondly, the principal asymmetrical feature of South Asian political system, that is, the overwhelming dominance of India, makes multilateral negotiations over issues that involve India impossible. The negotiating process is essentially bilateral, and where India's interests are involved, intrinsically unequal. The exception, of course, is the critically important South Asian conflict between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. It has led to war between two countries on three separate occasions and remains potentially dangerous flashpoint that could disturb not only the peace of the region but of the world. The dispute above all keeps arms spending in India and Pakistan at enormously high levels, commits both to the development of nuclear weapons and maintenance of massive defense establishment, all of which could consume resources which could be put to better use in programs of poverty alleviation in both countries. It also prevents the development of common South Asian defense policy. Mediation and conflict management in this dispute have been attempted at three levels, beginning first of all with the UN. Indeed, the capacity for conflict resolution of the newly created United Nations was put to the test as early as 1947-1948 in the dispute between India and Pakistan in Kashmir. Since then, there have been numerous Security Council resolutions on Kashmir. There have been third-party mediations, especially by the Soviet Union, as well as bilateral negotiations between two countries since 1971-72. But none of these has brought the conflict anywhere near resolution. The policy of benign neglect which India has pursued since early 1970s now faces a severe test in the changed situation in Kashmir through a new development in the form of armed conflict in the state in the post-1990s period. The end of Cold War would normally have made it easier to evolve a satisfactory set of proposals bilaterally to begin a resolution of this conflict. But the new factor of Kashmiri nationalism makes such a resolution less likely today. The problem, in fact, has a new manifestation, a combination of ethnicity and nationalism, which makes resolution more difficult than ever before. Dear students, we turn next to the third important feature of conflict resolution, the internal conflicts, the ethnic and religious conflicts, especially those in India, Sri Lanka and Pakistan. And we have confront one of the crucial issues in the theory and practice of conflict resolution, the difficulties inherent in the resolution of conflicts involving ethnicity and politicized religion. In many of these conflicts, responses and reactions to colonial rule have affected the thinking and behavior of ethnic and religious groups in their rivalries, and after independence in their tensions, as some sought to redress of historical grievances and others to protect hard-won advantage from erosion by new policies. The extent, duration and the levels of violence and impact of these on political structures and institutions in these countries in the course of these conflicts have varied greatly. All these countries have endured very high levels of violence, ranging from sporadic but deadly terrorist attacks to virtual civil war or sustained guerrilla warfare in the parts of each country. Problems of identity, national or ethnic, appear in high relief in all these disputes. Indeed, the issues of conflicting identities is the central theme in all these disputes. Many of the conflicts have been internationalized to a greater or lesser degree either by affected minority groups within the country or by diaspora elements living in voluntary or involuntary exile and working in association with representatives of the minority at home, or by interested external agencies ranging from neighboring states to prestigious international non-governmental organizations. For example, 3 decades back, India insisted that Punjab dispute was an internal problem and had resisted all efforts on the part of Sikh minority who wanted to internationalize it. Even so, the Indian government has conceded, for instance, in its well-known white paper on the Punjab crisis published in 1984, external forces with a deep-rooted interest in the disintegration of India had a role in the increasing tensions within Punjab. Although the external forces officially identified are the Sikh diaspora groups in North America and Western Europe, and especially the separatist groups among them, Pakistan is often seen and criticized as the principal source of external support for Sikh separatist groups that operated in Punjab. The same argument is given by the Indian government over the Kashmir issue and the violent conflict that erupted there in post-1990s era. As in other conflict situations in other parts of the world, there are 2 approaches to the management of social conflict: the structural and the cultural. The first of these emphasizes the importance of political and institutional change as a means of resolving conflict, and its principal underlying assumption is that change in progress are facilitated best by devising new political structures and institutions, or revitalizing existing ones to serve this new purpose. At the political level, the structural approach emphasizes negotiations and a search for compromises between political representatives of groups in conflict. In contrast, the cultural approach emphasizes the need for reconciliation between communities in conflict through mutual understanding and shared responsibility. It operates at the level of community, concentrates on relationships between communities in conflict, and emphasizes the importance of non-governmental community relation organizations in the process of reconciliation. This disjuncture in practical approach in conflict resolution has its parallel in 2 clear strands of thought in conflict resolution theory. The one which emphasizes the need for negotiation, bargaining on sharing of power, and emphasizing the need for compromise, and the one which concentrates on the communication, relationship, and mutual problem solving as a basis for long-lasting resolution. It would be true to say that the first of these, the structural approach, has been preferred to the cultural approach in the resolution of South Asian ethnic conflicts. But a review of the peace accords that the then Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi, negotiated in Punjab, Assam, and Sri Lanka leaves us in little doubt about the formidable difficulties that confront mediators seeking to resolve ethnic conflicts, especially where these have been persisted over a long period of time. Indeed, ethnic conflict is less amenable to mediation than other conflicts, including the conflicts between states. In many cases, Punjab and Sri Lanka are good examples. There is a multiplicity of conflicting and interested parties, as well as divided authority on one or more sides, all of which makes it difficult to reach agreement or make an agreement stick once it has been reached. Dear students, now we know the nature of conflicts and methods adopted for resolving conflicts. We also realized what are the loopholes in these methods. Still, there can be some measures adopted to resolve the future conflicts, such as: number 1. Despite trying to establish regional cooperation on political level first, efforts should be made to create them on the economic level. The reason is that political differences are of serious nature and their solution would require a greater degree of sacrifice of interest by regional states. Whereas, keeping in view the benefits of economic cooperation, it would be easier to formulate common economic policies for the regional states. Cooperation in economic and technical fields would promote greater harmony among the states of South Asia and also provide a forum for the consolidation of relations on the basis of sovereign equality by dispelling motions of primacy or supremacy voiced from within the region or injected from outside. After establishing economic cooperation, efforts could be made to resolve political disputes. However, it should be noted that without the solution of political differences, it would be difficult to maintain gains of economic cooperation. Number 2. In order to check the outbreaks of hostilities in the region and secure the process of cooperation, South Asian states should sign a no-war pact, which would provide solid guarantees to renounce the use of force in the region. Number 3. An effective check on arms race in South Asia would help in diverting resources shifted towards armament to solve the growing economic problems. Number 4. In order to contain nuclear proliferation, South Asia should be immediately converted into a nuclear weapon-free zone. Likewise, for eliminating big and superpowers' interference and rivalry in the region, it's necessary that Indian Ocean should be converted into the zone of peace. Number 5. An important strategy to increase the levels of cooperation in South Asian region is to encourage non-governmental efforts for establishing harmony and concordance in the region. Restrictions on traveling should be minimized, which could help in creating a sense of brotherhood in the area. Coordination in the areas like sports, media, education and culture should be encouraged by South Asian countries. Lastly, in order to enlarge the politics of cooperation in South Asia, it is necessary that there should be community consciousness among the regional states that they belong to a sensitive region and their common efforts and unity could help in keeping this region free from foreign interference and rivalry. In short, the presence of regional brotherhood is essential for multiplying moves towards cooperation and harmony in South Asia. Dear students, while concluding this lecture, we can say that the containment of power politics, hegemony and expansionist designs, arms race and elimination of misperception is necessary to settle political disputes among South Asian states. At the moment, though, the pace of efforts for creating understanding and eliminating chances of outbreak of hostilities and war is not fast, yet in the presence of multiple problems, South Asian states would sooner or later realize the significance of mutual cooperation and brotherhood. It's expected that if India and Pakistan are successful in resolving their disputes peacefully and superpowers are kept away from directly interfering in South Asian affairs, then the chances for establishing a basis for regional cooperation and coordination would be bright. In short, South Asian states should realize that their survival and prosperity depends upon mutual cooperation rather than conflict, which is also essential for preservation of regional peace and security. Dear students, this was all about today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.